A 5-year-old girl let go of her father's hand and ran toward a homeless woman sitting on the sidewalk, wrapping her arms around her legs like she already knew her. "Daddy, it's her. She's the one I want to be my mum." The millionaire froze, because there was something about that woman living on the streets he simply couldn't explain, and what he decided next, no one would have believed. Nobody would have believed what happened that Tuesday afternoon on Garfield Avenue in the Millbrook neighborhood on the north side of Chicago. It was one of those late October days that can't decide between autumn and early winter. The sky had that pale gray color that appears in the Midwest like a warning, and the sidewalk smelled like wet leaves mixed with the distant smoke from a street cart selling roasted chestnuts 2 blocks down. People moved fast, the way people always move in a city when they feel the wind picking up and they'd rather be somewhere warm. Nathan Cole walked with his daughter Lily by the hand, the way he did every afternoon after picking her up from Riverside Elementary. He wore a dark gray coat, the top button of his shirt undone, his shoes clean despite the weather. He was the kind of man who looks like he has everything under control even when he doesn't, especially when he doesn't. Lily, 5 years old, was stepping carefully over the cracks in the sidewalk with the absolute concentration that only children have when they invent rules that matter more to them than any actual law in the world. Stepping on a crack was bad luck. She had decided this several weeks ago and honored it with a seriousness that Nathan found completely endearing and completely her own. They moved like that, the two of them, in the easy silence that builds between a father and his daughter when they've spent enough time being each other's whole world. Nathan scrolled through emails with his free hand. Lily counted cracks under her breath. Then it happened. Lily let go of his hand. Nathan noticed half a second later, because in that half second his daughter had already started running toward the far end of the sidewalk, her pink sneakers slapping the pavement and her pigtails flying behind her, with the speed children have when something calls to them that no one else can hear. She wrapped her arms around a woman's legs. A woman who was sitting on the ground, leaning against the wall of a shuttered dry cleaning shop, with a worn plaid blanket over her lap and a canvas bag beside her with her few belongings. She wore simple clothes, clean despite everything. Her dark brown hair was pulled back with a plain elastic, and when she looked up, startled by that unexpected embrace, she had deep brown eyes, almost black, that looked at the girl and then looked at Nathan, who was already walking fast from the other end of the sidewalk, eyes that held something inside them that he couldn't name in that moment. The woman tensed. She tried to pull back, but Lily had her arms wrapped tight around her legs, and there was no gentle way to free herself. "Die, sweetie, let go," the woman said, her voice soft but clearly frightened. "Please let go. I don't know you. I don't want to," said Lily. She tilted her face up toward her dad, who had just arrived, and looked at him with that expression of complete calm, complete certainty that children have when they know they're doing exactly the right thing and simply can't understand why the adults around them don't see it too. "Daddy," said Lily in the most serious voice her 5 years could manage, "it's her. She's the one I want to be my mum." The silence that followed lasted perhaps 4 seconds. 4 seconds in which Nathan didn't know what to say, in which the woman didn't know what to do, in which Lily waited with all the patience in the world, as though the answer might take a moment but would inevitably have to arrive. Nathan placed a careful hand on his daughter's shoulder. "Lily, come here. Don't bother the lady." "I'm not bothering her, I'm hugging her, that's different." The woman had managed to get to her feet, pressed against the wall, looking at Nathan with that particular mix of shock and embarrassment that people get when they feel they're being judged before anyone has said a word. "I'm so sorry," she said quickly. "I don't know why she did that. I didn't do anything, I promise. I didn't touch her, I didn't call her over." "I know," said Nathan with the voice of a man accustomed to managing situations. "I'm sorry. My daughter can be very spontaneous." Lily hugged the woman's legs again. The woman looked down at her, and something in her face changed. It wasn't a smile. It was something more delicate, more involuntary than a smile. It was like a window that had been sealed shut for a long time, opening just barely 1 inch, without sound, without anyone deciding to open it. Nathan saw it. That was what kept him from sleeping that night. "What's your name?" said Lily, looking directly up at the woman. The woman looked at the girl, hesitated. "Maya," she said at last. "I'm Lily," said the girl with all the formality of someone making an important introduction. "We'll see each other again soon." And she took her dad's hand without another word. Nathan held Maya's gaze 1 second longer than was necessary. Then he walked away. But something in those eyes followed him the whole way home. Nathan Cole was 38 years old, and had been a single father for 2 years and 9 months. Claire, his wife, had died of an unexpected cardiac event when Lily had just turned 2. It was one of those blows that don't announce themselves, that don't prepare you, that arrive on a Wednesday morning while you're in the middle of a conference call and your phone lights up with a number from a hospital, and the voice on the other end says words that your brain takes several seconds to process as real. Lily had been too young to hold any real memory of her mother. That was what hurt Nathan most, perhaps even more deeply than his own grief, that his daughter was going to grow up without knowing what it felt like to be looked at by Claire's eyes, without knowing that particular laugh, that way she had of making every room feel warmer just by being in it. He was the founder and CEO of Cole Development Group, a real estate and construction firm he had built from a 2-person operation in a rented office into one of the more respected mid-sized development companies in the greater Chicago area. He had a reputation for being measured, efficient, not given to sentiment in meetings. Nobody who knew him professionally would have guessed that this same man came home every night and stood in the doorway of his daughter's room, watching her sleep for several minutes before he could bring himself to leave. They lived in a large house in the Elmwood Heights neighborhood, with a backyard, with a playroom painted a warm golden yellow, with every material thing a child could want. But there was a particular silence in that house that money didn't fill. It was the silence of an empty chair at dinner, the silence of a hallway that only ever had 2 sets of footsteps, the silence that Lily felt even though she couldn't name it, the kind that sometimes made her stop in the middle of the living room and stare at nothing, as though she were looking for something she didn't know how to describe. Everything began to shift 17 days before Mother's Day. It was a Thursday afternoon, and Nathan had arrived at Riverside Elementary 10 minutes before pickup. Ms. Parker, Lily's kindergarten teacher, met him at the front entrance with a smile that was carrying something extra inside it. "Mr. Cole, I'm so glad I caught you. We're organizing our Mother's Day celebration for the Friday before the holiday. The kids have been rehearsing a little program. Lily has a part she's been working really hard on. I just wanted to ask, is there a female family member who might be able to come and sit with her that day? An aunt, her grandmother perhaps?" "I'll be there," said Nathan. Ms. Parker nodded quickly. "Of course, absolutely. Whatever works best for your family." She was being too careful about it. Nathan didn't say anything more. On the drive home, Lily sat in her booster seat in the back, her eyes tracking the passing streetlights through the window as though they were going somewhere important. Nathan watched her in the rearview mirror, every few seconds. "What's going on, Bug?" Lily took a moment. "Daddy, why don't I have a mom like the other kids?" He breathed slowly, gripped the steering wheel a little tighter. "You do have a mom, sweetheart. We've talked about this. Your mom is in heaven watching over us. You remember the pictures we have of her?" "Yes," said Lily. Then, "But people in heaven can't come to the school show." Nathan didn't answer right away. "Grandma Margaret could come if you'd like. It's not the same, Daddy." The kind of silence fell that only children create when they say something that hurts more than they realize. Lily kept looking out the window. "You give me everything," she said slowly, in that small, serious voice she had when she was speaking as much to herself as to him. "Everything, everything. Clothes and toys and pancakes and bedtime stories and everything. But you can't give me the one thing I wanted most." Nathan didn't answer, not because he didn't want to, but because there was no answer to that. That night, after putting Lily to bed, Nathan sat on the living room couch with a glass of water he didn't drink, staring at nothing, listening to the silence of the house. And for the first time in a long while, he allowed himself to acknowledge something he had been keeping carefully behind project timelines and quarterly reports, and the constant occupation that is the best way not to feel, that he was lonely too. That taking Lily to school and picking her up and feeding her dinner and reading to her and loving her with everything he had was enough to keep functioning. But it wasn't enough to actually live. The second encounter happened 5 days later, on the same block of Garfield Avenue. Lily saw her first. Nathan knew because he felt her stop completely. 1 second of stillness, then the pull of a small hand slipping free. "Lily!" But she was already running. She wrapped herself around Maya's legs before anyone could do anything. The same woman, the same spot near the shuttered shop, the blanket folded beside her canvas bag. Maya tensed immediately, tried to move back, but Lily had her arms around her with a grip that didn't match the size of those 5 years. Nathan reached them. Maya's eyes met his, and he read in them the genuine alarm, the urgent need to explain that she hadn't done anything, hadn't invited this. Lily tilted her face up toward her dad. "Daddy, it's her. She's the one I want to be my mum," said the same way someone says the sky is blue, with the quiet certainty of someone pointing at something that simply is. Nathan took Lily gently by the shoulder. Maya had gotten to her feet, pressed against the wall, arms crossed, her guard up. Nathan looked at her a moment longer than he strictly needed to, and it was in that instant that he noticed something. Maya had something in her hand, half hidden between her fingers, a small notebook with a dark green cover. She closed it quickly when she realized he was looking, slipped it into her canvas bag with a discreet, almost reflexive motion, the way someone hides something that isn't meant to be seen. Nathan said nothing, but he registered it. What was a homeless woman writing in a notebook she guarded like that? He didn't have an answer, but the question settled into him and stayed. The next morning, Nathan parked half a block from the shuttered shop and watched for nearly 20 minutes. He saw her when an older man with a cane nearly slipped on a patch of wet pavement. Maya was on her feet before the man even noticed, steered him gently to the dry side of the sidewalk, said something that made the old man smile before he continued on his way. No drama, no waiting for acknowledgement. He saw her when a kid came sprinting around the corner and dropped his phone. It skidded toward the curb. Maya stopped it with her foot, picked it up, handed it to the boy without breaking his momentum. The kid grabbed it and kept running. She watched him go with something that might have been quiet amusement. He also noticed that she returned to the green notebook in her still moments. She wrote slowly, with a kind of focus that seemed almost careful, tender even. And whenever someone passed too close, she closed it with that same quick, precise movement. There was something about the way she held that notebook, not like someone recording information, like someone protecting something that mattered. Nathan started the car, but the question followed him through the rest of the day, with a persistence he couldn't shake. Friday night, Nathan couldn't sleep. He got up a little after 2 in the morning, went to the kitchen in his socks, turned on the small light above the stove, made tea that he didn't drink. He stood at the kitchen window looking out at the backyard, where the neighbor's security light cast pale shadows through the branches of the old oak tree. What was he actually considering? Offering a job to a complete stranger? Bringing her into his home, into his daughter's life with nothing to go on but what he'd observed from a parked car? It was irrational. He went to Lily's room. She slept the way she always slept, arms wide open, her cheek pressed against the stuffed elephant she'd carried everywhere since she was 18 months old, completely unconcerned with the world. Nathan stood in the doorway. He heard, in his memory, his daughter's voice in the car. "You give me everything, but you can't give me the one thing I wanted most." It wasn't a complaint. That was what made it hurt so much. There was no intention to wound him. It was simply the truth of a 5-year-old stated, with the brutal honesty that only people have who haven't yet learned that some things are better left unsaid. Nathan closed his eyes and made a decision that passed no rational filter, that didn't survive any reasonable risk assessment, that he couldn't have justified to anyone who might ask. But that felt right in a way that nothing had felt in a very long time. Saturday morning, early, Nathan drove alone back to Garfield Avenue. He found her in the same spot, sitting with her back straight against the wall, eyes on the street. The green notebook closed on her lap, her hand resting on top of it, the way someone rests a hand on something they want to keep close. He walked over and stopped in front of her. She recognized him immediately. Her body tensed slightly. "Morning," he said. "Morning," she answered carefully. "My name is Nathan Cole. The little girl the other day is my daughter. Her name is Lily. I remember." "How long have you been on this street?" She looked at him directly. "Why are you asking?" "Because I want to know, not to judge you." Maya studied him for a moment, with that way of reading people quickly that belongs to someone who can't afford to get it wrong. 7 months, she said at last. "Do you have family?" "Nobody I want to be in contact with." Nathan nodded slowly. "Listen to me. I'm not an impulsive person. I've been thinking about this for several days. And I know what I'm about to say is going to sound completely out of line. I can already imagine," said Maya, crossing her arms. "My daughter needs someone, not a replacement for anyone, not someone to fill a space. She needs presence, warmth, someone who can be there for her in ways that I, being her father, simply can't provide on my own." Maya said nothing. "I've been watching you this week," Nathan continued, without apologizing for it. "I've seen how you treat people when nobody's asking anything of you and when nobody's watching. And my daughter, who is 5 years old and understands nothing about protocols or social convention, chose you. Lily doesn't do that. In 5 years I've never seen her do that with anyone. Maya let out a short, humorless laugh. Kids run up to strangers, Mr. Cole. It happens. Not Lily, he said, with the quiet certainty of a man who knows his child well. I'm offering you a job. As Lily's caretaker. Your own room, meals, a proper salary, everything formal and above board. I'm not asking you to be anyone other than who you already are. Just to be there. Maya was quiet for a long moment. Why would you do this for me? She asked. I'm not doing it for you, he said, with an honesty that caught her completely off guard. I'm doing it for my daughter. But that doesn't mean I don't care that it might also be good for you. Silence. Maya looked down at the green notebook on her lap, pressed her fingers lightly against the cover without opening it. A small, almost unconscious gesture, the kind that reveals more than words. I'm not the person you think I am, she said. I don't know that yet, but I'd like to give you the chance to show me either way. He took a business card from his coat pocket, set it on the blanket beside her. My number. If you decide yes, call me. If you decide no, I won't bother you again. He turned to go. Mr. Cole, he stopped. Why would you trust someone like me? Asked Maya, and in her voice there was something genuinely painful. You don't know anything about me. Nathan looked at her from where he stood, because people who've learned to survive with their dignity intact usually know very well what's worth taking care of, and he kept walking. Maya called that same evening, at 9:30. Nathan waited deliberately through 2 full rings before answering, even though the phone had been in his hand since 8. I accept, she said without preamble. But one condition. Tell me. If at any point this isn't working, you tell me directly. No excuses, no pity. I don't need to be handled that way. Agreed, and I ask the same from you. If something doesn't feel right, say so. You don't have to put up with anything you don't want to. When do I start? Can you come tomorrow? A brief pause. Yes. Maya's arrival at the Cole house in Elmwood Heights was not cinematic. She arrived at 10 in the morning, punctual, with her canvas bag that held everything she owned. Nathan showed her through briefly, the kitchen, the living room, Lily's playroom, and finally her room, small but entirely her own. A single bed with a white quilt, a wooden nightstand, an empty closet, a window with a view of the backyard where the large oak tree shaded the space through most of the morning. Maya walked in, looked at everything in silence. She didn't touch anything yet, just looked. In the way her eyes moved around that room with a door she could close, a window that looked out on a yard, a bed that nobody had chosen to do her harm, there was something Nathan recognized without being able to fully name. She placed the green notebook on the nightstand with care, as though it was the first thing she needed to have located in any new place, as though wherever she was, it needed to be within reach. Nathan noticed, said nothing. That was when Lily appeared in the hallway like a small, unstoppable force. Maya! She jumped up and wrapped her arms around Maya's neck before Maya could prepare herself. Maya closed her eyes for just a second. Her arms came around the girl with an instinct so natural, so completely automatic, that Nathan had to look away toward the hallway window. For Lily, there was no adjustment period. She adopted Maya the way children adopt things they've already decided belong to them. She followed her everywhere. She demanded her hair be done in specific and impossible styles. She introduced her toys with the gravity of someone presenting important artifacts. For Maya, every hour was a careful balance between the affection she felt rising without being able to stop it and the fear of letting herself have it. She had learned in very hard ways that caring about things meant suffering when they were gone. For Nathan, it was the first time in nearly 3 years that there was a new presence in the house. Not service, not maintenance. A human presence with its own rhythms, its own silences, its own way of moving through space. He noticed small things, a different smell in the kitchen in the mornings, the sound of his daughter's laughter coming from the playroom at an hour that used to be quiet, and something else. Some nights very late, when the house was completely still, he heard the faint sound of a pen moving on paper from down the hall, from Maya's room, like a murmur in the dark. Always at the same hour, always the same careful, unhurried sound. He noticed, too, the way Maya sometimes paused in the middle of a task, washing dishes, folding laundry, and went somewhere else for just a moment, a flash of something behind her eyes, something she was carrying that she hadn't put down yet. He didn't ask, but he didn't stop noticing. One morning he passed her room with the door slightly open. Maya was sitting on the edge of the bed with the green notebook open on her lap, writing with intense focus. When a floorboard creaked under his foot, she looked up sharply, closed the notebook, slipped it under her pillow with that same quick, precise movement. She looked at him. He looked at her. "Sorry," said Nathan, as though he were the one who had interrupted something. "It's nothing," said Maya, but her cheeks had a color they hadn't had a moment before. Nathan continued down the hall, and that question, the one that had been looking for an answer since the first afternoon on Garfield Avenue, settled into him with a new weight. What was she writing? What was she protecting so carefully in those pages? He had two choices, ask or wait until she was ready to tell him. He chose to wait. But whatever it was starting to matter to him in a way he hadn't expected. The third day, Maya appeared at the doorway of his home office. "Mr. Cole, I'm sorry to interrupt. Lily wants to play beauty salon, and she was asking if—" "Go ahead," said Nathan without looking up from his screen. "I haven't finished asking. Whatever Lily needs for the beauty salon, go ahead," he said. Maya looked at him for a moment. "All right," she said, and left. Nathan looked back at his screen. But he couldn't keep working. He could hear from the living room Lily's precise instructions about how the client needed to sit completely still. He could hear Maya's perfectly solemn responses. "Yes, of course. Whatever you say, the stylist is always right." Nathan closed the laptop, sat in the quiet of the study, and smiled. A smile that he hadn't planned, that had no specific destination, that arrived on its own and lasted several seconds and didn't feel strange at all. The first smile like that he could remember in a very long time. The first difficult moment came on the 5th day. Nathan left work earlier than usual, having cancelled a dinner meeting he couldn't have explained why he no longer cared about. He came through the front door and found the living room quiet. Then he saw them. Lily asleep on the big couch, her head in Maya's lap, her arms loose at her sides, completely surrendered to sleep. Maya was stroking her hair very slowly, her eyes on the window in that place between the present and somewhere else entirely. When she heard the door, Maya looked up. They looked at each other. Nathan felt something he didn't immediately recognize. Not discomfort, not suspicion, something harder to locate, like recognizing something you hadn't expected to find and needing a moment to understand what to do with it. "She fell asleep after her snack," Maya said quietly. "I didn't want to move her." "That's fine," said Nathan. He went to his room, stood in front of the bathroom mirror for a moment. What he had felt was something close to the beginning of recognition, the kind of recognition that leads somewhere he hadn't let himself go in a long time. The kitchen conversations at night began without anyone planning them. Lily was in bed by 8:30. Maya straightened up the kitchen before going to her room. Nathan usually worked another hour or two from home, and at some point those two movements started to overlap. The first night they stayed talking until late. Nathan made coffee for both of them without asking if she wanted any. Maya sat at the table without asking if she could. "What was your wife like?" Maya asked one of those nights, without any introduction. Nathan actually thought about the answer. "She was the kind of person who fills a room without making any noise," he said at last. "The kind who makes everything feel simpler than it actually is. Do you miss her?" "Every day. But what hurts most now isn't missing her myself. It's that Lily is never going to be able to miss her the right way, because she doesn't have any real memory of her." Maya nodded, eyes on her cup. "That's very honest, is it? Most people would just say they miss her a lot. Not that the greater pain is their child's." Nathan looked at her. "Maya," he said after a moment, "you never talk about your past." She didn't answer immediately. "It's not that I don't want to," she said. "It's that some things, when you say them out loud, become too real again, and I've been spending some time trying to make them a little less real." "I understand that," said Nathan, and he said it in a way that made her believe that yes, he actually did. There was a long pause, a comfortable one. Maya wrapped both hands around her cup. "Can I ask you something? Anything? Did you ever think you were going to be okay again?" Nathan took his time. "Some days yes, some days no. I think being okay isn't really a place you arrive at. It's more like something you choose to keep becoming, little by little, even on the days you forget how." Maya looked at him over the rim of her cup and didn't say anything else that night. But she didn't go to her room right away either. The moment that changed everything came on a grey Saturday afternoon. They were in the living room. Lily had her toy doctor's kit out. Her patients that day were her stuffed elephant, a cloth giraffe that had lost one of its button eyes and had a small bandage taped over the spot, and Maya, who was the most cooperative and most seriously ill patient because she always had very specific symptoms. "Open your mouth," ordered Lily, the plastic stethoscope hanging around her neck. Maya opened her mouth. "Say ah," Ah, good. Now I'm going to check your heart. Maya sat perfectly still, while Lily applied the stethoscope to several spots on her chest with the focus of a surgeon. Your heart is okay, announced Lily. But you need medicine. Maya received the bottle cap with full solemnity. Thank you, doctor. Lily began writing something in her toy notepad with her wooden pencil. Then she looked up. And with the complete naturalness of someone saying something that carries no special weight, no drama, no intention beyond naming what simply is, she said, I love you so much, Mommy, and went back to writing in her notepad. The silence was immediate. Lily didn't notice. She was already examining the giraffe. Nathan, sitting in the armchair beside them with his phone in his hand, didn't move. Maya didn't move either. For 3 or 4 seconds, neither of them breathed. Then Maya stood up. I'll be right back, she said in a voice that barely had any air inside it. She walked to the hallway bathroom, closed the door carefully without making noise. Lily kept working on the giraffe. Nathan waited a moment. 2, 5. He stood up, walked to the hallway, stopped in front of the bathroom door. He didn't hear anything at first, just silence. Then, very faintly, the sound of someone crying with great care so it won't be noticed. Someone who has practiced that a great deal. Crying without sound, because there was a time when crying visibly was dangerous. Nathan stood with his hand raised, without bringing it to the door. What he felt wasn't pity. It was something closer, something more like resonance, like when two things in the same space respond to each other without anyone having planned it. He lowered his hand, went back to the living room. Lily looked up at him. Where's Maya? She'll be right back, Bug. Okay. Hey, Daddy, do you have an appointment? I have an opening at 4 o'clock. It's almost 4 right now. Perfect. You're right on time. When Maya came out 10 minutes later, her eyes were only slightly red, and her smile was ready. The smile of someone who has decided to keep showing up even though something just shifted inside them. All good, she said, before Nathan could say anything. Good, he said. But that night, he couldn't stop turning over 2 things that were slowly connecting somewhere he couldn't yet name. The green notebook she protected with such care, and the tears that came without warning when a 5-year-old called her Mommy. What had happened to her? What was she keeping in those pages? Whatever it was the same kind of weight he recognized, because he carried something like it too. 3 days before the Mother's Day show, Nathan took Lily to Millbrook Park, the small neighborhood green space with old maple trees and a stone fountain where there were ducks that Lily had named individually. Maya came with them. It was the first time the 3 of them had gone somewhere together outside of the school routine. Lily ran from one end of the path to the other with a bag of bread crusts for the ducks, calling them by name with a conviction the ducks clearly didn't share. Maya and Nathan walked slowly behind her, without needing to say very much. There was something new between them that afternoon, a closeness that hadn't come from any particular conversation, but from shared time, from silences that no longer felt uncomfortable, from knowing the other person was simply there without needing to explain it. Maya was about to say something. She stopped. Her body changed in a fraction of a second, not a sudden movement. The way a body reacts before the mind catches up, when something triggers a fear that's stored very deep. Nathan felt it before he saw anything. Maya. Her eyes were fixed on the far end of the park. Between the trees, about 30 yards away, a man was standing, not doing anything, just standing there, watching them. Nathan didn't know him yet, but he read everything he needed to know in the way Maya stopped breathing. Do you know him? She didn't answer right away. She moved. With a calm that was clearly costing her something, she walked toward Lily, crouched to her level, said something quietly in her ear. Lily nodded and took Maya's hand without questions, with the complete trust children have when they sense that the adult caring for them needs something from them. The 3 of them left the park. In the car, Maya kept checking the rearview mirror. Who was that? Nathan asked, when they were several blocks away. Maya took a moment. Someone I thought I'd put enough distance between myself and... She didn't say more, and Nathan didn't push. But when they got home and Lily went to the playroom, he stayed in the kitchen watching Maya, who had both hands on the counter and shoulders tight, as though she was still carrying something heavy from the park that she hadn't been able to put down. Maya, she looked up. You don't have to carry whatever that was alone. She held his gaze for a moment, then looked away. But something in her shoulders gave, just barely 1 inch. The real conversation came that same night late with rain against the windows. Lily had had a nightmare and cried until someone came to her room. Maya arrived first. By the time Nathan got there, Maya already had Lily in her arms, rocking her slowly, singing something very softly. They settled Lily back into bed together, in silence, with that parallel care that doesn't require any prior agreement. They stepped out into the hallway. Neither of them went to their room. "I lost a baby," said Maya. No introduction. It came out the way things come out when they've been kept inside too long and finally find the right moment. Nathan said nothing. "I was 4 months along," she continued, in a very controlled voice, the voice of someone who has rehearsed telling this without falling apart. "My ex-husband came home one night drunk. We argued. He shoved me into the wall." A pause. "At the hospital they told me the baby hadn't survived." Nathan closed his eyes briefly. "What I felt that night wasn't only the loss of the baby," Maya went on. "It was that with him went whoever I was before all of it. The woman who still believed she could have a normal life. The one who still trusted." "The man in the park," said Nathan very quietly. Maya nodded. "His name is Derek. He found me. I don't know how, but he found me. And the street. The street was the only way out I found, so he couldn't track me. I know that sounds absurd, but out there nobody knew where I was. I was free to be nobody for a while, until I could figure out how to be someone again." Nathan was quiet for a moment. "The notebook," said Maya then. He looked at her. She held his gaze. "What I write in there," she said very quietly. "They're letters for the baby who never got to be born." The hallway went completely still. Only the rain. "He never had a name," she continued. "So I write to him. I tell him how the day went, what I did, what I learned." A pause. "I know that probably sounds—" "No," said Nathan. "It sounds like nothing other than love." Maya looked at him, and for the first time since she had arrived in that house, she didn't look away before he did. When Nathan spoke again, his voice was lower than usual, closer. "Nobody knew about those letters before tonight." A pause. "Thank you for telling me." Maya didn't respond, but something in her face changed in a way that had no precise name and didn't need one. Nathan began noticing things about Maya that he hadn't let himself notice before. The way she laughed when Lily said something unexpectedly adult. She'd hold it back first. Then it would escape completely, and it was a laugh that changed her entire face and made it impossible not to smile alongside her. The way she stood looking out at the backyard with her arms crossed when she thought nobody was watching, in that place between the present and some memory that hadn't quite finished letting go. One Tuesday he came home to find Maya teaching Lily how to water the plants in the backyard. Lily had the hose, and Maya was guiding the angle of the water. Both of them were laughing. Both of them were muddy. Nathan stood in the back doorway and knew, with the same clarity with which he recognized when a decision was right, except this had nothing to do with any business decision. It had to do with something he hadn't felt in 2 years and 9 months, and that, now that he was feeling it, scared him considerably. That same afternoon, when his mother, Margaret, came by for a visit, she spent time with Maya graciously, played with Lily, had coffee in the kitchen. When Maya took Lily for a nap, Margaret turned to her son. "What exactly is happening here, Nathan?" "I'm not sure what you mean." "I mean, that young woman does not look like an employee, and you don't look at her like she's an employee." Nathan didn't answer. "I'm not criticizing," said Margaret in a softer tone, "but if you get emotionally involved and this doesn't work out, Lily is the one who pays the price." "I know, Mom." "Do you really?" "I know," said Nathan, meeting his mother's eyes, "that for 2 years and 9 months, I decided not to feel anything in order not to risk anything. And that worked very well for my schedule, and very badly for everything else." Margaret looked at him, then nodded slowly. "Take care of her too," she said at last. "People who've carried a great deal can break in ways you don't always see coming." It was the closest thing to a blessing Margaret Cole was going to give that day, and both of them knew it. The conflict arrived the Friday before the show, without warning. Maya had taken Lily to the grocery store on the corner of Millbrook and 5th. Lily sat in the cart, inspecting everything Maya placed inside it, with the seriousness of a quality control inspector. Maya saw him before he saw her. Derek was at the end of the cereal aisle, thinner than he'd been in the park, with the look of someone who has been searching for a long time and has finally found what he was looking for. Maya gripped the cart. He was already walking toward her. "Good thing I found you," he said with that particular calm that was more threatening than open anger. "Been looking for you for a while. I know where you're living now. Saw the house. Pretty nice for someone who was sleeping on the street a few months ago. Derek, we have nothing to talk about." "I think we do. I just need—" "No," said Maya. "Maya, His voice dropped to something that felt more like pressure than conversation. "We're still family. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Lily reached out and took Maya's hand. Didn't say anything, just held it. Derek glanced at the girl for a second, then back at Maya. "I'll be around the neighborhood tomorrow," he said, stepping back slowly with no urgency, like someone making clear they have all the time in the world. "Think about it." And he left. Maya got through the checkout, got Lily buckled into her car seat, sat behind the wheel, didn't start the car. Her hands on the steering wheel were trembling slightly. "Maya," said Lily from the back seat. "Yes, sweetheart. That man scared me." Maya exhaled slowly. "Me too, baby. But he's gone now." That night she told Nathan everything. He listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment. "He's not coming into this house," he said. "And if he comes near you or Lily, we deal with it. Together." "It's not your problem," said Maya, and there was something defensive in her voice, the voice of a woman who had learned not to rely on anyone. "Maybe not," said Nathan. "But you matter to me, and that, whether you asked for it or not, isn't something I can change." Maya looked at him, said nothing, because she didn't know how to respond to someone caring about her without wanting something back. The morning of the Mother's Day show arrived with a clean, generous sun, one of those early May mornings in Chicago when the city seems to have decided, at least for today, to be kind. Riverside Elementary had been decorated with paper flowers in pinks and yellows, with white balloons tied to the fence posts and streamers hanging from the windows. The smell of that morning was particular. Coffee, store-bought cookies, the nervous energy of children who aren't sure they'll remember their lines. Lily wore a white dress with small embroidered flowers along the collar that Maya had ironed that morning. With a concentration, Nathan watched from the doorway. Maya ran the iron with a care that went beyond duty, the kind of care that people bring to things that genuinely matter to them. The three of them arrived together. Miss Parker saw them come through the gate and couldn't help the way something shifted in her expression. She looked at Maya, looked at Nathan, looked at Lily, who was walking between the two of them, holding a hand on each side as though it were the most natural arrangement in the world. They found seats in the second row. Maya and Nathan sat beside each other. There were things between them that already existed, even though nobody had named them yet. The program began. The children came out in a line through the side door, each one scanning the audience with that particular urgency children have when they need to confirm that someone specific is watching them. Lily came out fifth. She walked to the center of the small stage with her hands clasped in front of her, very serious, chin up. She searched. She found Maya's eyes and smiled. Not a small smile, a complete one. The smile of a girl who found exactly what she was looking for, exactly where she expected it to be. Maya smiled back. Nathan saw it, and something in his chest settled, the way something settles when pieces of a thing that have been out of place for a long time finally fit together. The children sang. The mothers cried, the way mothers invariably cry at elementary school shows, which have that particular ability to reach something very simple and very deep in a person. The fathers applauded. It was when the program was nearly finished, when the children were stepping down from the stage and families were beginning to rise to receive them. Maya felt a hand on her arm, a hand that gripped too hard. "Told you we had unfinished business." Derek was standing behind her between the chairs with the look of someone who has been waiting for the right moment. He had worked his way through the crowd of families, calculated the exact instant. Maya didn't move, didn't raise her voice. She didn't want to alarm the children still coming off the stage. "Derek, let go. This is not the place. There's never a right place when you're always running." His grip tightened. "I just need what's mine. This life you have now, you didn't build it alone." "Let go," said Maya, her voice steady even though her arm hurt. "I'm asking you nicely, because if I don't, let go of her." Nathan's voice came from the left, low, absolutely clear. The kind of quiet authority that doesn't need volume to be understood. Derek looked at him, measured him. Nathan was taller, shoulders squared, eyes that held no fear, asked no permission, negotiated nothing, the kind of steadiness that comes from years of making decisions and standing behind every single one. Derek released Maya's arm, but didn't step back. "Stay out of this," he said, keeping his pose. "She's just your employee." Nathan looked at him for one moment, then looked at Maya. "Only at Maya. She's not my employee." A pause. He held her gaze and didn't look away. "She's the woman I fell in love with." The silence that followed lasted only a few seconds, but in those seconds, Maya looked at him with something in her eyes that had no name yet and didn't need one. And Nathan was looking at her, not at Derek, not at the crowd around them, at her, with a certainty that had no cracks, that didn't need anyone to believe it, because it already knew it was true. Derek wavered. Something in that stillness, no aggression, no performance, just a man completely sure of what he'd just said, disarmed him more effectively than any confrontation could have. "This isn't over," he said, more out of pride than conviction. "It is for me," said Nathan, "and I strongly suggest you don't come near her again." Derek looked at them both for one last moment, then walked away. Lily came running from the side of the stage, arms wide open, face still lit from the show. She threw herself at Maya. "Did you see me? Did you see me from here?" "Every single second," said Maya, taking Lily's face in both hands. "That was the most beautiful performance of the whole morning. I know another song too. You can sing it in the car." "Okay." Lily turned to her dad. "Did you see me too?" "Every note, Bug." The girl nodded with the satisfaction of someone who has received confirmation of what she already knew. "I'm hungry," she announced, and took both their hands, and pulled toward the exit. It wasn't there that Nathan said everything he needed to say. He waited until they got home, until Lily ate and fell asleep on the couch with her stuffed elephant tucked under her arm. Then he went to the kitchen. Maya was at the sink, rinsing the lunch plates. She turned when she heard his footsteps. She looked at him, and in her eyes, Nathan read what he had spent days wanting to read, that she felt it too. That she had been holding it back too. That she was afraid too. The same fear from a different place. "What I said back there," he started. "I didn't say it just to make him let go of you." Maya didn't answer right away. "Nathan," she said, and it was the first time she said his name without the formality of Mr. Cole. "I'm not the kind of woman someone in your position would look for. What would someone in my position look for? Someone without history, without weight, without—" "Maya," he said quietly, "I have history. I have weight. I have a 5-year-old daughter who grew up without her mother, and a man who spent almost 3 years learning to stay present while still processing things on the inside." She looked at him. "Nobody arrives without weight," he said. "The question is whether the other person's weight crushes you, or whether you find a way to carry it differently together." "I'm scared," she said, barely above a whisper. "I am too." "What are you scared of?" He thought about it honestly. Of caring about someone and losing them. Of Lily getting even more attached and being hurt if something goes wrong. Of what I feel being too much for you to receive when you're still learning how to let yourself receive anything at all. Maya was quiet for a moment. "That last part," she said. "That's exactly what I was going to say about myself." And in that parallel confession, in that involuntary mirror, something between them quietly relaxed. Nathan took a step toward her. "I'm not asking you to decide anything today," he said. "Just don't go. Stay. Let us try." Maya looked at him for a long moment. "I don't know if I know how," she said. "Neither do I," he said. "We learned together." The days that followed were different in small and permanent ways. In that now, when they passed each other in the hallway, neither of them looked away first. In that the kitchen conversations no longer ended when the coffee ran out. In that one afternoon, Nathan came home and sat down on the playroom floor with Lily and Maya and played 3 rounds of a matching game, losing most of them because Lily kept moving the cards when he wasn't looking and found this extremely funny. In that one evening, all 3 of them fell asleep on the big couch during a nature documentary that neither of the adults had been following. Lily in the middle, her head in Maya's lap, and Maya with her head resting on Nathan's shoulder, all 3 breathing at the same steady rhythm of people who feel, even if they can't quite say it yet, that they are exactly where they're supposed to be. It was Margaret who found them like that when she stopped by to drop something off, letting herself in with her key. She stood in the living room doorway and looked at them for a moment, then turned off the overhead light, left the hallway light on so there'd be enough to find your way without waking anyone, and went back out with a smile she didn't share with anyone, but that stayed with her the whole drive home. It was a Sunday morning. In the backyard, with the May sun coming through the branches of the old oak tree and making that filtered light effect that at that hour turns any yard into something that looks like it belongs somewhere else entirely, somewhere gentler. Lily was chasing a butterfly with a plastic sand shovel and absolute conviction, completely certain that this time she was going to catch it. Maya sat on the back steps with a glass of orange juice, watching the girl with that quiet, complete expression that Nathan had learned to recognize in her, the expression she wore when she was fully, genuinely present. Nathan came and sat beside her, They stayed there a moment in silence, both watching Lily, who had abandoned the butterfly and was now investigating something fascinating in the dirt near the fence. "There's something I want to say to you," said Nathan. Maya looked at him. Nathan reached into his jacket pocket. He took out a small box, simple, without extravagance, and inside a thin ring, clean, unadorned, without unnecessary decoration, like everything that's genuinely worth something, which doesn't need to announce itself to be what it is. Maya held her breath. "Nathan, I'm not going to ask you to be someone you're not," he said. "I'm not going to ask you to fill anyone's place. There's no place to fill. That was never what I was looking for." Maya's eyes were bright. "What I do know," he continued, "is that since you arrived, this house stopped being quiet, and Lily started laughing in a way I hadn't heard before. And He paused, breathed. "I started feeling like getting up in the morning means something beyond just the day's schedule." Lily, from the dirt by the fence, looked up. "What are you guys doing?" "Give us a second, Bug," said Nathan without turning. "Is it something important?" "Yes." "Okay." And went back to the dirt. Nathan turned back to Maya. "You didn't take anyone's place," he said with the most honest voice he'd had in many years. "You made a new one that didn't exist before you. A place that has your shape, that doesn't look like anything I could have imagined on my own. And that place, if you want it, can be yours forever." He got down on one knee on the back step. Maya covered her mouth with both hands. "Will you marry me?" Lily dropped the shovel. She was on her feet in an instant, running toward them with dirt still on her hands, on her knees, on the front of her shirt. "Maya!" she yelled. "Say yes! Say yes! Say yes! Say yes!" Maya laughed and cried at the same time. "I haven't said anything yet, Lily." "But you're going to say yes," declared the girl, with the absolute and completely unshakable certainty of 5 years old. Maya looked at Lily, then looked at Nathan, still kneeling, the ring in his hand, something in his eyes that was half fear and half hope and entirely real. She thought about the cold sidewalk outside the shuttered dry-cleaning shop, about the night in the hospital, about 7 months of being nobody in order to survive, about Lily's eyes that first afternoon on Garfield Avenue, about the kitchen, the coffee, the backyard, and the laughter that had come out of her without asking permission, about the green notebook she had always hidden, and the night he hadn't judged her, hadn't looked away, had only said, "That sounds like nothing other than love," about this man who had seen her, really seen her, when she had believed there was nothing left worth seeing. "Yes," she said. Lily let out a shout of joy that cleared the backyard fence and was most certainly heard by every neighbor on the block. Nathan slid the ring onto her finger. Maya took his face in both hands. And when they kissed, Lily pushed herself between them with the full authority of someone who knows exactly who deserves the credit for all of this. The three of them held each other in that backyard, with the May sun through the oak tree branches, with the butterfly nobody was chasing anymore drifting nearby, unhurried and beautiful, with the smell of grass and orange juice, and something warm coming through the kitchen window. Family, not by blood, not by plan or paperwork, or any kind of chart that shows where people come from, by choice, by encounter, by 3 lives that arrived at the same corner with their weight and their cracks at exactly the right moment, and decided that the cracks were not reason enough to keep going alone. Months later, Lily would explain to her best friend at recess how she had gotten a mom. "I saw her on the street," she would say, completely matter-of-factly, "and I just knew it was her." "How did you know?" her friend would ask. Lily would think about it seriously for a moment, because her eyes were sad the same way mine get sad when I miss someone, and when someone has the same sad eyes as you, they're already your family, right? Her friend wouldn't entirely follow, but Lily would already be running back to the swings, because there are truths that only children know before the world teaches them to make things complicated. And that is how the story of Nathan, Maya, and Lily ended, and began, a story that made no logical sense, that followed no manual, that started on a grey sidewalk outside a shuttered shop with a 5-year-old girl who understood what adults spend years trying to learn, that love doesn't arrive when you're ready, it arrives when you need it, and sometimes it arrives holding the hand of someone who needed it just as much as you did. And when that happens, when 2 people whose hearts have been worked over by life find each other at exactly the right moment, they don't break anymore. They become whole. That's everything for today. If this story reached your heart, if it made you smile, if you felt a tear you weren't expecting, tell me in the comments which part moved you most. And let me know, on a scale from 0 to 10, what score would you give this story? Your opinion matters and it helps me know what to bring you next time. Until the next story,